It's Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio. Heard exclusively on TuneIn. You're watching us via Big 12 Studios. With Ari Timken, I'm James Westling. We're now super excited to welcome in West Virginia head coach Rich Rodriguez. What's up, Coach?
I'm good, guys. How you doing?
Man, we are probably not as good as you after that win. You guys looked really good. Went on the road, took down a top 25 team, 45-35. You win at Houston. Last time out, your quarterback gets Freshman of the Week honors. You had a defensive guy get Defensive Player of the Week. An all-around effort. What was your main takeaway?
Winning sure to hell beats losing. You know what I mean? So that's the first thing. But our guys I'm proud of the way they hung in there. We've been struggling a little bit, and at moments it was some bad luck. Whether it's quarterback injuries, what have you. But I really like the way we've practiced the last couple of weeks. And practice has been good all year, but the last 2 weeks, we intentionally tried to amp up the competitiveness a little bit, and they responded well in practice, and it showed in the game.
I'm curious for the quarterback situation. We saw Scotty Fox play really well. This is a guy that first time he entered a game, I think he threw 2 interceptions in 3 plays. So, tell me as a coach how you're coaching him up, and kind of how he's stuck with it this season after having such a bad debut.
Yeah, it was tough to throw him in there where we threw him in there. In the injury part, I've had this happen one time to me in my career when I was back at Arizona that we had 3 quarterbacks go down and we were playing the 4th and 5th guy, and so we didn't obviously anticipate that. Bobby thought Scotty might be redshirting this year, but he got thrust into the role. And to his credit, everything, he's a very conscientious guy. He got better every day in practice. The more reps he got, the better he got. And the arm talent was always there. I mean, you could see he had next level type of arm talent. He just was like a true freshman, still learning. And again, he played really well, I think, the last couple of weeks. And there's been some freshman moments. But I love his competitiveness. I think he's getting more and more confidence every day, not just every week, but every day, and that's a good thing to see.
Yeah, I would say, with all your quarterback injuries, and you lose Jaheim White early in the year, your preseason all-league running back, and then Jamori Robinson can't get cleared, and that, I'm sure, slowed his growth and development this season. All the unforeseen circumstances, I don't think anybody saw this past weekend coming. So, what does it say about your culture, the buy-in that you've gotten from this team, and just the little things you can take away from this season?
Yeah, with all the stuff, the bad luck or whatever, you're not playing well, that was happening. To our guys, I told them, I said, you kind of, like all coaches, you block out what's happening outside, and how are we doing things inside? Are we continuing to get better? Are we working hard? And I told our players before the last game, I said, your version of playing hard and the coach's version might not be matched up. And we've talked about that since August, that there's a different level of playing hard, and that includes coming off the ball better. And so we worked on that all week. Said we're at least going to come off the ball with a little more purpose, run with a little bit more conviction, and it did that in practice. But they need to do it in the game, and they did. And I said, then the hard part is to keep doing it. It's a natural tendency in life to be average. Everybody gravitates to average, and you have to fight that every day. Eventually when our culture is completely sunk in, then I'll never have to worry about that. The only guys I have to teach that to is the 20, 25 new guys. Right now, they're all new. And so we're having to teach that every day, and it's taking a little bit longer maybe than I wanted, and it's still a work in progress, but eventually it'll get there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great point. I love it. How do you do that? What are the ways in which you instill that as a value of the program?
Well, it's pretty simple like this. I told the coaching staff, and I told the players too, there's never a play, whether it's a Tuesday practice or obviously a game, where one of our guys is either lazy or soft, that it doesn't get addressed. You can't let him loaf on one play and say, oh, okay, the rest of the plays he was okay. Or you can't let him be soft on one play and say, oh, okay, he was just soft on that play. That's like the ultimate no-no. It's worse than anything you could do. We say if you loaf and you're a traitor, you play for the other team because you ain't playing with 11. So that part of it is always something you have to preach to establish your culture. But again, it takes longer these days maybe than before, but it still can be done.
Man, that line, everybody gravitates to average. You have to fight that every day. I love that. Where did you come up with that? Was that through your own personal experiences that you kind of came up with that, or did you learn that through a mentor? Where does that stem from?
No, I've been, I guess when I was the youngest head college coach in America at age 24 and the youngest at age 25 that's fired, you learn a certain thing. But, everybody has different levels of competitiveness. The greatest of all time, the Michael Jordans and the Kobe Bryants, Larry Birds, those guys, they were not ultra competitive. The Tom Brady's, they're ultra competitive. And that's why they have success. Well, maybe not everybody's wired like that, but all these young kids I know are competitive. They play video games, whatever. I said, so we have to foster that as coaches. We got to appeal to their competitiveness. And if you're a competitor, you don't ever want to be called average. You don't want to be in the middle of the pack. You want to be in the front. You want, losing is like, fate worse than death in a lot of ways. And I know I'm kind of going over the top with that, but that's what we have to foster to create the culture that we need to have here.
Yeah. And is that like, obviously there's team successes and certainly you want to get to a certain threshold of wins and get to a bowl game and win a conference championship. Those are all there. But like when it comes to the realities of this year for you guys, is like that how you measure success? Is finishing strong, getting buy-in, evaluating players based on, their ability to continue to pull on the rope?
It's playing as hard as you can possibly play in every opportunity you get. And that's whether it's a Tuesday practice or a Saturday game, what have you. That's what we're looking for from our players. And the same thing with our staff. We've got to obviously put our guys in a position to have success, but we also got to make sure that culture is seeping in. And even when we were losing, I wasn't panicking because I didn't see a whole lot of, the loafing or the softness. But I saw too much. One of it's too much. I saw too much of it. And so I appealed to our guys the last couple weeks. I was like, this guy's, no matter what happens in the game, these are the non-negotiables, and you have to keep reminding them that. So is it harder nowadays to establish a culture than 20 years ago? It probably is, because you got more free agents, so to speak, and,
right.
Guys getting paid, whatever. But I'm convinced it still can be done. And I work on it every day more than anything else that we do.
Talking with Rich Rod, the head coach at West Virginia, and Coach, you've now coached 6 games in the Big 12 at West Virginia. I'm curious your thoughts on the Big 12 and how it compares to like when you were at Arizona or when you were at West Virginia and you guys were in the Big East. What has impressed you about the league, and is it about what you thought it would be, or is it tougher?
It is, and I knew it was going to be a quarterback strong league this year with some of the quarterbacks we had, and great skilled people. It does remind me quite a bit of my first early years in the Pac-12. When it was so many great quarterbacks in the Pac-12 back then in the 2012 to 17, wherever that was, there was a lot of great skilled players. I'm talking about next level quarterbacks that are still playing in the NFL. That's where the Big 12 is right now. I mean, outside conference teams are finding out, and you play the Big 12 teams, they got people that can score. They got quarterbacks that can do it. So it's a really good league. I knew that, and we knew it was going to be, we'd have some tough moments, but I'm 100% convinced now, having gone through just most of the season with it, that we could compete for a championship. We just got to fix some of our problems sooner rather than later, and then make sure our guys that are in our program now that are going to still be in our program, that we develop them better than anybody in the country.
Are you still as involved from an offensive standpoint as you've ever been in terms of game planning, play calling, et cetera?
Yeah, every bit of it. They're calling the plays. I'm involved in special teams as far as knowing what we're doing. I don't call or do anything with our defense other than I know what we're doing. And I think I have other coaches that can do it. And I tell the coaches, if I get pulled out of it too much where I can't sit in the meetings, watch the film, evaluate the game plan, all that, then I know I got to turn it over. But I'm making time to do that, and I still enjoy doing it. But I got other guys on the staff that could call plays for sure.
We asked you about Scotty Fox earlier. Who does he remind you of? Like when you think about his potential and how good he could be down the road, does he remind you of any guys that you've coached or coached against in terms of his skill set and what he has?
Yeah, he's very unique from the standpoint he's a true freshman that's getting thrust into this role. I'm trying to think what quarterbacks I've had some quarterbacks in the past that that had the arm talent at Arizona. At West Virginia, had guys that could throw, but they were faster runners from that standpoint. But Scotty he's a good athlete that can run, but he can make all the throws. He's got next level arm talent, And he's, the one thing about it is he, like a lot of times when you take a transfer quarterback, they can fit in around us, but they probably have learned different systems, different ways of doing things. And so you almost have to, I say unteach it, but teach this is the way we do it. Well, Scotty's got no other kind of habits other than so when we tell him to do it, that's what he's growing from. So that's what's so neat about his upside is that he's going to, we told him one thing, hey, this is the drop, this is the timing on this route package. That's the only way he knows how to do it. And so you could kind of grow from there. And I'm seeing that now with him, and he'll keep getting better.
You shared a really funny story about Scotty at the end of the game on Saturday on your radio show this week. I'm hoping you could share it with us now. Basically,
we're taking a knee now. Like that's the easiest play in football, right? Just take a knee. But I'm going there. Make sure you don't pull out too soon. Make sure you ride the ball. Take a knee right away. Make sure the official sees that. And I'm going on and on about it. And Scotty goes, Coach, we're making this way too complicated. It's not that big of a deal. I know how to take a knee. And I'm like, that's what a fifth-year veteran would tell you. Like, Coach, shut up. We got this. Don't worry about it. So that was fun to watch.
Oh, that's amazing, Coach. Man, when I look at, like, I know the wins and losses this season aren't probably, they're not what you wanted to be. But with everything you guys have gone through, like, you guys remind me a little bit of Arizona State when Dillingham got there, and it took 2 years for them to get to where they wanted to be. And same thing with BYU, their first year in this league, they win 5 games, then they have 11 last year. Like, you guys beat Pitt, you beat your rival, backyard brawl, you got a top 25 road win. Like, how would you summarize this season with kind of everything that's taken place so far?
Yeah, I would like to think that very rarely are you going to have where your top 3 quarterbacks are out and you go to your 4th guy. You never thought you'd get to that point. And then your top 2 running backs, you're good. You got to back up. Your top running back gets 150 yards against Pitt, and he's out. So you lose your top 2 running backs, and then your best wide receiver's out in the second game of the year. So it just doesn't happen that often like by the second or third game. So it's unique, and hopefully our bad luck, if that's what you want to call it, bad luck is gone from that standpoint. But I still think, in every year or your first year, you got to, we have to do everything we can to establish the type of environment and culture that we're going to build our program from. And that has to be non-negotiable. No matter what bad luck or whatever happens, we got to make sure that happens. And so to our staff and to my players' credit, there's nobody hanging their heads. They came to work, got a little bit better. We still got some big challenges left ahead, but you could feel it taking place. Now we got a lot of things to fix, and we're going to start fixing it, as soon as the signing date comes in December. But, it's been a good group to coach.
I remember asking you at media days about, what's different maybe this time around. And I'm curious, now that we're a few months removed from that, you played games, what's different about Morgantown? What's different about West Virginia football than the last time you were there?
Well, the difference is just with college football in general. I mean, you got 120 guys and I got 120 free agents. Can you imagine being an NFL team and, instead of having 7 or 8 free agents, you're deciding whether to re-sign or trade. Your whole roster is that. And so it's a little different dynamic as far as building the program. But as I tell the coaches, the goalposts will move, you got to move with it. You can sit there and complain or you can do something about it. So I said, ain't no doing it any good to complain. This is what it is. Let's learn from our mistakes this year. Let our players learn from the mistakes. Let's keep coaching the way we're coaching, keep demanding the way we're demanding. And eventually it'll get to the point where we don't have bad luck. We got the roster we need. Our coaches will know what the heck we're doing, and we're going to win a lot of games. And I still believe that's where we're headed.
Coach, your offenses are always evolving. They're so creative. Like, I follow this coach on Twitter, and he's always posting, innovative highlight reel stuff. And he's got a clip of you guys running this double wing bash quarterback counter that you're running against Houston. Like, do you just sit in a lab all summer and come up with these new plays? Like, what goes into all of this?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like it's so much easier now to like be creative because all you got to do is get on the internet, and there's so many more creative people out there, coaches in high school level, whatever. I'm like, damn, that looks like a pretty good play. Can we do that, and does it fit what we do? You know what I mean? And then I think we've never been afraid to try something that's new, if it makes sense. Like, I want to be simple, but if it's something that's easy to teach that can create a conflict and our guys can execute, then I don't care if somebody else didn't do that. Let's try it ourselves. You know what I mean? And everybody says, "Why do you run the quarterback?" And I say, "Because he can." You know what I mean? When you tell me you can't run him, then we won't run him. You know what I mean? So I'm not a, I don't prescribe to the theory that we have to do what's always been done, but I also don't want to be so stubborn that if you can't, you got to be able to make changes if you got to make changes, and look at other ideas.
Yeah, I don't think you could be coaching today if you aren't able to be multiple and not be too stubborn. I think the stubborn coaches that we all grew up playing for, watching, like, they've expired because you have to be multiple. You have to be able to change.
Can you imagine if you had 5 different quarterbacks? Because we rep 5 different quarterbacks at the starting position during practice. Four different ones starting. So you imagine, like, oh, this is the way they all have to do that. I mean, you'd really be screwed.
That's insane. Coach, what do you think about all these guys getting canned mid-season? Like, it's crazy how many openings there are.
Yeah, I don't remember it ever I know there's been happening before, but this many this soon?
No, it hasn't.
I think it is somebody mentioned it's a product of the NIL era and the pro type of model that, there's a lot of big money people that are giving a lot of money, and all of a sudden before they would get a statue or a plaque or a building named after them. No, now they're only, reward is wins, right? And so if they're giving a lot of money and they ain't getting the wins, they get upset, and who they're going to blame it on? They're going to blame it on that coach. So it's
so true.
It's a little disheartening. I mean, we all know it. We signed up for it, but it's also harder now to develop a culture than it's ever been. So people say, well, you can do it quicker because you can get more free agents. You can build the talent quicker, but the culture takes longer, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And so, it's kind of hitting there, and we all know when we signed up for it, but it does seem like for some of the folks that, in my opinion, they got fired, there was a little bit of lack of patience. And if they would have let it go for a little bit longer, let's see how it's going to happen.
Yep, man, we feel the same way. Totally agree. Well, you can see the growth and the progress already in year one under your leadership back at West Virginia. So thanks for popping on with you, and we wish you the best of luck. We'll talk to you soon.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Coach.
Rich Rodriguez, the head coach at West Virginia. They get ready for Colorado this weekend. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, heard exclusively on TuneIn. You're watching us on Big 12 Studios.